This is We the Sales Engineers podcast, show 200. We made it.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 200. So I wanted to take the time to thank all of you who have been listening. Some of you who started from the beginning all the way till right now. And whoever found the channel new and is listening to this podcast. And in case you're wondering, I am your host, Ramsey Majaba. I am a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada, and I have 200 episodes under my belt of We the Sales Engineers. For episode 100, we kind of did a big show out of it. We got John Kerr, Chris White, and Greg Holmes on the show. For this one, I wanted to keep it a little bit more low-key. I mean, 200 episodes is a lot of episodes, and I would say 90% of it were interviews. And the reason I wanted it to be low-key is because I have learned a lot from those 200 episodes. Life-related, SE-related, people relations related, all that. And for this episode, I wanted to share 20 of the lessons that I've learned about sales engineering or life in general, based on the countless conversations. Because yes, I had 200 episodes, probably 100, at least 180 of them are interviews. But I've also had countless conversations with people at different stages of their careers. Some of them trying to get into sales engineering. Some of them were just laid off due to performance. Some of them were just laid off due to circumstance. Even the performance ones, there could have been a lot of things that could have been done. Some of them that are struggling at knowing what the role is, even though they're sales engineers. Some of them that are excelling. So I've had a lot of conversations. So I want to talk about what I've learned from these conversations within the podcast and outside the podcast. So here are 20 lessons learned from 200 episodes and countless conversations. And I'll start off with the first one, obviously, because we have to go with number one, is you don't know what you don't know. And that's the whole reason I started the podcast. I've told the story a few times before, but I started off my career. I was hitting quota. I was doing well. Like my first year, I think I did 130%. I can't remember, but I blew my quota by quite a bit. So 120, let's say 130%. I was happy with that. And I thought I was doing great. My boss, he thought I was doing great. I had a mentor for a couple of months, and then he left the company. So I was never assigned another mentor. And everybody thought I was doing well, including myself. And it took almost a year and a half for someone to see me in action. And that someone was the senior VP of sales. So a shout out to John Winans, who I'm trying to get on the podcast, by the way. He's the senior VP of sales, and he saw that I did things incorrectly. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I could have done a lot better. The problem is I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that there was something called discovery. I didn't know that I was supposed to do something differently. Generally speaking, the remedy for that is to get out of your bubble in everything. So from a sales engineering perspective, my bubble was myself and my salesperson, and my salesperson was doing things a certain way. I never had the chance to shadow anybody else. Sometimes it's hard to shadow people remotely, especially when they're going on site back in the day when we used to go on site. So I didn't get the chance to do that. But just talking to people would help you improve. And now there's so many assets out there, from SENY, Pre-Sales Collective, SE Toronto, SE Sydney. There's so many different places where you can go as a sales engineer to learn from a lot of different people. So first thing you need to understand is you don't know what you don't know. And the second thing you need to understand is you will never know until you see other people and you see how they do things. Talk to them, be curious, genuinely curious. It's easy for me to talk to SEs on the podcast. I get a lot of people will come on the podcast telling me that, "Oh, I thought we are going to talk for like 5 minutes," like, because the way I set up the podcast is I send like, "Hey, we're going to talk about this topic, that topic, or whatever topic is near and dear to your heart," and we'll have like 2 or 3. And most guests would think that we'd talk for 5 minutes and then we run out of things to talk about. But if you're genuinely curious and you listen, which is episode number 1 of the show, it's about active listening. So if you do that, questions will come up and you'll start learning. You'll hear something, you'll challenge someone, they'll challenge you, and it will be a conversation. So you don't know what you don't know, and to remedy that, meet as many people as you can from all walks of life, not just your friends, not people in the same industry or the same area as you, because they might be doing the same mistakes. And I've seen people within the same company do the same mistakes. And if I take 5 minutes for each point, it might be like a 3-hour show. So I'll try to speed it up. The next one is you're not going to please everyone. And that's hard. Like I want to be liked. I am not in your face kind of guy. I don't like to piss people off. It's not in my nature. But I've noticed that people will find reasons to be mad at you for one reason or another. Whether it's customers, colleagues, whatever. There are some things that would happen that could be perceived in a different light by somebody else. You would make decisions in the moment that you're in it that people think, oh, that was the wrong decision, or that was a decision to spite somebody else, where in fact you're not even thinking about that person because you're in something. So people will find reasons to be upset with you, especially in sales engineering when you're working with customers. You might forget to mention one caveat about a certain niche use case of the product, and they might get pissed off at you saying, oh, you didn't tell me that. The question is, can you lay your head on the pillow at night and know that you did everything you could to be the best person that you can be to yourself and to others? Like, for the whole thing I'm doing, the Weedy SEs, is for others. I mean, yeah, I get a lot out of it, but I could continue these conversations off the podcast. The reason I don't do it, the reason I want it on the podcast is because it helps a lot of people. A lot of people message me telling me that the podcast in itself, beyond whatever I help with in person, has helped many people get better at their jobs or get a job as a sales engineer. So that's the test. If you, I've heard someone call it as the grandma test. Will grandma be proud of me, or will she be upset with me? So people will get pissed off at you. There's not much you can do about it. This is life. You can do the best thing you can, but another thing is that you can't let them walk all over you. The worst thing is to apologize for something you didn't do, in my humble opinion. So that there's that. So lesson number 3 is there isn't one way to do things. Here's an example. I'm gonna have to let me do a quick search. So, okay, I was talking to a gentleman by the name of David McCullough from Proverity. Proverity, that's the place I was looking for. So he's the VP of Sales Engineering in Proverity. In my mind, there's a qualification, you do discovery, you do a demo. David simply said, oh, you can do a demo as part of a qualification/discovery process. It won't be as in-depth, and it's not there to highlight how the product can solve a problem, but it could be used as a teaser to get people interested in talking more about something. And in my mind, that, like, I didn't want to do that. I never want to do that. But that's the thing. There isn't one way to do something. He's experienced. He's been doing this for a long time, so it must have been working for him. The question was, what are you gonna do with that information? Are you gonna stick to what you know, or are you gonna experiment? And part of sales engineering is experimentation. And we don't solve problems. We never already know the solution to a problem. I mean, if we've seen the same problem over and over, maybe, but a lot of times we have new problems that the solution isn't just staring you in the face. You have to go and experiment. So that's one thing you can experiment with. Where do you put the demo in the sales cycle? And that's just one aspect. People do proof of concepts differently. Some people do proof of value, some people they do paid pilots, some people do proof of value. There isn't one way to do anything. And the more you talk to people, which going back to number one, you don't know what you don't know. The more you talk, the more you learn, the more you see different ways to do things, the more tools you have in your tool belts. And I'm waving my hands too much for those watching on YouTube. But basically, just because you do something one way doesn't mean another way isn't as good or better. And that's what we have to keep our eyes open for, to see if there's someone doing something better and to learn from it. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4, not everybody is meant to be a sales engineer. Sales engineering is a very tough job. If you're a software designer, you're designing software, you're sitting in front of a computer, you're doing that all day. If you're in support, you're sitting all day trying to break stuff and fix it. And it's usually a specific set of products, not everything. Sales engineers, especially general sales engineers, we have so many different products that we have to know, and we're not sitting and playing with these products all day. We're doing customer meetings, we're doing proof of concepts, we're doing discovery calls, we're doing product management calls. So if you are the kind of person who likes to sit down and focus on one thing for an entire day, sales engineering might not be for you. If you like to talk about technology more than you like to talk about business, how the technology solves a business problem, sales engineering might not be for you. And it's fine. Not everybody is meant to be a NBA basketball player or an NFL player or a pianist player. Yeah. I'm not meant to be a software designer. I wouldn't be able to do it. Maybe I would. No, I probably wouldn't. But I'm meant to be an SE. So a lot of people would have it the other way. They'd be much better at being sales engineers and they would be happier. So keep that, and I'll get to something else about that in a bit. Number 5 is luck plays a big part in sales engineering. Whether you're in the right territory, you're given the right quota to hit your quota, whether you're given the right salesperson that fits you perfectly so that you can do well together, whether your manager is the right fit for you. So there's a lot of luck in sales engineering, whether you're in the right place to actually find a job. I was in the right place at the right time to get the sales engineering role that I initially got. I don't know if I would have got any other sales engineering role. I worked for a vendor, or I worked for a customer. That was the first sales engineering team that was in the area. So I had insider knowledge about the vendor. I happened to use the product in the past. I worked on other products. It was just an incidental use of a product, so I wasn't really an expert. That being said, all of that was just luck setting me up for getting the job. And luck, a lot of times, it has to do with like opportunity, with working hard to make opportunities for yourself. But still, luck has a big part of it. And sometimes we're not that lucky, and sometimes we are. So, and if you're unlucky, what are you going to do to change your luck? Maybe you can look at other aspects of sales or whatever your role is. And if you're feeling unlucky about anything, reach out to me and we'll figure out how you can work at it. So number 6 is be known for something. And this is off the last podcast that we had with Jeff Margulies. Basically, be known for something, or as Steve Martin said, and as Cal Newport wrote, Be so good they can't ignore you. You want, a lot of us are interchangeable at work. Some of us are. They can get rid of us. I was talking to someone today and I asked them, like, hey, if they have one SE in the startup company, I told them, like, if your SE is gone, what would happen to you? It's like, nothing, we have other people. That showed me that the sales engineer isn't as good as they should be, or they're not as good as they should be yet. They might get into it because they're brand new. But if you you want the feeling that if you leave the company is going to struggle for a bit. You need that feeling because it's a sense of security. You know that you won't go anywhere. It's a leverage about negotiation. If you want to move up the ranks, you could. If you want to try other things within the company, you could. It's just be known for something and find that one thing that you want to be known for and get known for it, or be so good they can ignore you. And that means you're known for being so good, whatever that means for you. All right, number 7 is people can disagree and both be right. I've had Chris White on the show. I've had John Kerr on the show. They disagree about the term technical win. Last I talked to John Kerr, he wasn't a big fan of the term. Chris White thinks that our goal as sales engineers is to get the technical win. And they're both right. It's just the way they define things could be different. And this goes back to there isn't one way to doing the same thing, but these are like influential people who disagree about things. And they could agree to disagree, but in the end, as like if we want it the way we want to implement it, it doesn't really matter as long as we get the job done. So you can disagree with people and you're both right. Doesn't mean one of you has to be wrong and one of you has to be right. It could be within the context that they're talking about. I mean, we can always come up with different contexts to fit whatever opinion we have, and we would be right there. But generally speaking, just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean they're wrong or you're wrong. It just means that maybe you need to look deeper into it, or maybe you're just defining things differently. Number 8 is, so practice is overlooked, but it's so effective. I've said it multiple times. Sales engineering is the, I guess, sales engineers are the athletes of the sales world, or the athletes of the business world. Yet we don't get to practice. And sometimes when we do practice, it's on our own in front of a mirror, or we record ourselves, and then we have to kind of critique ourselves, which is, I find difficult. Or you do like once a month thing with the manager, or it's just most athletics organizations, whether it's basketball, football, whatever, they practice more than they play. Not only that, like Michael Jordan talks about making practice harder than real life. So when you're practicing, are you practicing and everything goes smoothly? What would you do if something goes bad in a demo or in a discovery? What if you ask a question which in your mind you've practiced it 1,000 times, where the customer answers a certain way, and now during this call the customer answered a different way? How are you going to pivot? How are you going to figure that out? These are all things that we need to practice so that when we're in front of a customer, we can actually do our jobs. Now, the more experienced of us, they just practiced more in front of customers and they've seen more answers. So they've formulated their thoughts around those already. But if you're brand new, we need to practice. And even if you're experienced, you haven't practiced for everything. And if you don't, let's say I'm a journalist and I'm focusing on one product. I've been focusing on one product for a while, and now I have to go back to an older product or a different product. So I haven't practiced on that in a bit of time. So now I am out of practice. So we need to practice continuously. Practice, 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 as Allen Iverson would have said. Number 9. People are passionate about sales engineering. I haven't seen it in any other like role, maybe sales a little bit, but I haven't seen people passionate about support. I mean, people yell at you all the time. It's not a fun job, uh, but it is a job. That's what it is. It's a job. I worked in network design. I didn't talk to anybody within my organization who was just in love with the idea of network design, or maybe they're in love with the idea of network design, but they're not in love with their job. It was just a job. From what I have seen throughout the people that I've talked to, sales engineering is a calling to some, not everybody, because not everybody can be a sales engineer or is meant to be a sales engineer, going back to point number 4. But sales engineering is a calling more than a job. And a lot of people find sales engineering as their destination, whether it's moving up the ranks or whether it's preparing them to move on to bigger and better things, because there might be bigger and better things for each individual. Some people might think sales engineering is the end all be all, which many people might agree with. Some people won't. So it is a calling. Number 10. So we're halfway through, people. Stick with me. The engineering community is the best community in the world. I can say that. I really don't have to say anything else. But that's what I've noticed about the sales engineering community. I've never seen a community trying to help random people outside their community to get in, helping each other within the community. I've never seen. I mean, I've seen, if you go on like forums, people send questions, let's say about like web development. They ask a question, people might answer it. But the camaraderie that I see within the sales engineering world is different. It's just something else. And that brings me to point number 11. You need to surround yourself with great people. And it's easier said than done. And how do you do that? Why would people want to be around you as well? There are multiple ways. I was talking to Tony Mosey, Anthony Palmosey. For those of you, he's been on the podcast. I've been on his YouTube channel, if you want to check it out. And he's kind of a super connector. He likes to connect with people. He reaches out to different people and connects with them and helps them out with their SEO, helps them, like, he just provides value to people he thinks would, like, he would like to meet and know. And you, as a human being, need to surround yourself by great people, whether it's within sales engineering, whether it's in other aspects of life. If you're interested in cryptocurrency, you surround yourself by great people who know cryptocurrency. I mean, I was talking to Paul Irfine, and he does that. He's into cryptocurrency, which I don't understand. Don't hold it against me. And he even paid for courses so that he would hang out or have a coach or someone he can reach out to ask questions. That's one way to do it. So you can offer value, your time, advice, or you can pay for coaching or whatever service other people might offer. Or you can just become friends with people, which I that's what I've done with Tony. Like I've become friends with him. I've become friends with many people that reach out to me. And I'm not saying I'm a great person. I try to be, but I can also reach out to other people. That's how I'm friends with Chris White, Paul, that I just mentioned. I've become friends with him since he's been on the podcast. Akshat from SENY, Owen. These guys are amazing, and you can just surround yourself by great people. And if you don't know who Akshat, Owen, and who else did I mention? Anyways, check out SENY, Sales Engineers of New York. Great people there. Number 12, master the basics. We talked about practice earlier. Like, practice the basics. You need to know the basics inside out. And if I played basketball growing up, they don't teach you to shoot 3-pointers before you know how to do a layup. Start with the basics before you know how to do that 2-step, 1, 2. And the NBA, it's like 15 steps. That's a basketball joke for you. But if you need to master the basics of asking like simple questions and handling simple objections, doing a simple demo before putting in a story, before starting like challenging customers on their assumptions. There are varying degrees of sales engineering. Like, understand the sales cycle and your role in it before you start trying to inject yourself in different areas of the sales cycle. just an example. Number 13 is creativity with sales engineering knows no bounds. And Patrick Pisang is the perfect example where he would write like a press release for his customers, and he would show it to them. It's like, this is what I intend to achieve with you in terms of your success. Not many people would have followed that. You can get creative in creating like content online. Again, Patrick Pisang talking about social sales engineer, or the social sales engineer. Creativity in telling a story, creativity in managing a proof of concept, creativity in sending an email to a customer so that they would respond to you. There's so many different avenues of creativity for sales engineering. So, and that engineering isn't like, when I went into sales into engineering, like customer support engineering, I wasn't known for my creativity. I'm still not known for my creativity, other than I create content. But so engineering in general, that's not what it's known for. When you get into sales engineering, if you have that spark in you, you can use it and you can be very successful doing it. Number 14, doing something every day, doing something small every day is better than doing something huge once a year. For example, it's better to read 15 minutes a day or learn 15 minutes a day than to study for 2 hours on a Friday or the weekend or whatever. Mainly because you can always manage 15 minutes a day. It's hard to manage 2 hours in one shot. Things always pop up. Also, if you improve 1% every day, it's like the compound effect of like interest rates and investments. If you improve 1% a day, it's a lot better than having like one shot where you improve and then you stop. I think there's a fable about like someone getting paid 1 cent on the first day and then doubling it every day. At one point, he got paid $1 million versus someone who gets paid $100 a day for a long time. So just try to scale down your requirements. If your requirement is to study for 15 hours a week, maybe scale it down to, instead of 15 hours a week, to half hour a day, and see how fast you can get there. Or maybe 2 chunks of 15 minutes, 2 chunks of 30 minutes. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon, whatever it is, just try to scale it down and see what you can achieve. And having time limits around your activities actually makes you more effective and more efficient. If you say, if I'm going to work on this demo for 30 minutes, you tend to be a lot more focused for that 30 minutes than you say, all right, I'm going to work on this as long as I have, and then you see yourself on YouTube kind of binging something. Number 15, not everybody's meant to be an SE, but number 15 is, this is a horrible job for some people. I've seen people struggle. I've worked with people who struggle. They either get hired or get no training, which has happened to me. But if it's a complex product, or if you're not getting training in front of a customer, or you're being told you're 6 months in and they keep telling you, oh, just work on your demo, and without guidance, and like, all right, once I do the demo, then what? It's not a fun job. Or you're a channel sales engineer, and some people are telling you like, oh, we do demos in front of customers, but management is telling you don't ever talk to customers. Now you're getting conflicting messages. You're given the wrong advice. So one person I was working with, I am still working with her. She'll be on the show next week. Her bosses actually forced her to do a harbor tour demo. That's their demo style within the company, and she would fight against it. So they're basically telling her to do a bad job. And for anyone who wants to do a good job, that's a horrible feeling, where you're being forced to do a bad job. And the harbor tour is something like almost every single person who's been on the podcast said you shouldn't do, right? We all know it's bad. We all know it's wrong. And yet that SE is being forced to do it. So it's not a good feeling. It's stressful. Anyways, you might also have the time where you have too many products and you'll be better off focusing on one. I've worked with one SE where, as a generalist SE, I think we had, I don't know, 5 different products, 6 different products, and each one had like a million different protocols. Because I'm in networking, so we talk about OSPF, ISS, BGP, PPPoE. I can list a whole lot, and that's just like half of one product. Then you have other products that can do HD, it can do a million things. He was forced to do a demo on a product he wasn't very comfortable with. And he started off his demo by saying, "This is the most complicated product in our portfolio." Now he said it I don't know if he said it tongue in cheek. He wasn't trying to scare the customer. He was just trying to say, like, this is the most powerful product tool we have because you have so many options. But it came out as, this is the most complicated tool in our portfolio. And it's true, it was the most complicated product in the portfolio at the time. But you're not supposed to say that as a sales engineer. He was overwhelmed, and he moved on to a different company. And I believe he's been successful in that company because he doesn't have so many products that he needs to work with. Or even worse, you could be paired with the wrong salesperson. Who I've talked to SEs who have abusive salespeople, like people who actually call them names, say that they're trash, tell them that they're not doing their job, call their bosses, complaining about the work that they're doing or the bad work that they're doing. So it could be a horrible experience to some. And my advice about that is, before you take a job, make sure you interview the company that you're working for. I've seen people work with bad managers in the past, but generally speaking, if you do your job, you're okay, you'll survive. But when you have abusive account managers who are control freaks, who are worried about their commission because they're commission-based, or they're leveraged a lot more than we are, things can happen. All right, number 16 is, there are other roles out there. We glamorize the role of sales engineering. I mean, there's this podcast, Pre-Sales Collective podcast. There's a bunch of podcasts out there that just glamorize this role. I just mentioned that this role is horrible for some people. And here's the thing, it's not the only role out there. Some people have it in their brain that I want to be an SE, but there could be other roles that could either prepare you to be better SEs, or could be even better for you than sales engineering. I mean, I always introduce myself as a sales engineer, but in reality, I haven't been a pure sales engineer for almost 3 years. Right now, if I want to be honest with myself, which I don't, I would say I'm more sales than sales engineering. Is it a good role? It's okay. I mean, I would prefer sales engineering, but I'm surviving there. There are other roles: customer success, technical account management. And for those of you who don't know, technical account management is kind of like customer success, but at other companies. Like VMware has technical account management. I don't know if they have customer success. So some companies have customer success. I know one company that has both: technical account managers for large customers and customer success for medium customers, and nothing for small customers. There's account management or account executive, product marketing, product management. So there are a lot of roles out there. Don't try to, just open your eyes, see what else is out there, and maybe another role would be good for you, just as good as sales engineering. Number 17, you don't get what you don't ask for, unless you have a great manager. So if you're looking for a salary, you're not getting a salary raise. You won't get it until you ask for it, generally speaking. If you're negotiating for a salary, if you don't ask for what you want, you'll probably get less than what you want. In some cases, sometimes you get more than what you want, just because that's what the range is for specific companies. You won't get a customer demo sometimes if you don't ask the customer if they want a customer demo. You won't get access to new projects and new initiatives within your company, if that's something that you want, if you don't tell your manager that you're looking for new projects. So, and it's a general rule: you don't get what you don't get what you don't ask for. And before I became a sales engineer, I really didn't know that. I thought like, oh, it should come to me. I'm doing a good job. It should come to me. But no, it doesn't work like that. You have to go get it. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. Number 18 is you need to put boundaries around your time. Time is the most important commodity. I have a family of 3. I don't want to be working all the time. I might need to take time away from work during the day to help my wife out with certain things. So you need to put boundaries around your time, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. Every once in a while, you might need to work late, but it's an exception to the rule, not the rule. You might get double booked every once in a while, and then you're going to have to make a decision about which meeting you're going to have to go to, which meeting you're going to have to reject. But that's the exception to the rule, not the rule. And this is something that I do with with the account managers that I work with today. It's like, hey, you want me on a meeting? Look at my calendar. My calendar is up to date. It's always up to date. So check it out and book me whenever you see that I'm open. If I'm not open, I'm gonna reject it, unless you give me a great reason to move the meeting that I'm in. I don't want to go out to dinners after work. I put boundaries on my time. If it's again, occasionally it's okay. If it's weekly, if that's the expectation, it's not going to happen. Whatever it is, just put boundaries around your time. Number 19 is, and we're almost getting to the end, guys. So number 19 is you should try to control everything you can, but you're not going to control everything. You want to be prepared in a demo for everything that could crash. You're just not going to. The question is, you might be able to prepare to what you're going to do if something crashed, not if a specific thing crashed. You want to be able to control the questions that you're going to ask the customer, leading them down a path. Sometimes you might not lead them down the path. Sometimes the path you're leading them down is the incorrect path. For example, if you're trying to sell security and they're interested in something else, and you're asking them questions, and it's clear to you that they're not interested in my solution, or my solution will not help them. Not that they're not interested, it's just my solution is not beneficial to them. What are you going to do? Are you going to quit? Are you going to double check? There's so many things that could go wrong live in front of a customer's, or not even not live. Like if something breaks in front of you're doing a proof of concept, you gave the customer the product and now crashed. Are they going to tell you? Are they not going to tell you? How are you going to control the process of a proof of concept? So you can, I guess this is another way for prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But my thing is prepare for the worst, but you're not going to know what the worst is, because things could always get worse. So what are you going to do then? You're not going to control everything. You're going to learn to pivot. You're going to learn to be flexible. You're going to learn to not let the weight of the world push you down. So all that. All right, last one of the day. Number 20. Mentorship, and this is a controversial one. Mentorship sucks, especially the mentorship provided by the company that you work for. And I will elaborate more on an upcoming podcast. This is just my experience with mentorship. Specific kinds of mentorship has not been great. There are some that are good, but I will talk about that a little bit more. So that's it for the meat of the podcast. Basically, these are the 20 things that I've learned from 200 episodes on the podcast and all the conversations I've had externally with all the different people that I've talked to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is show 200, and I'm very proud of this show. I hope you enjoyed this. And for those of you who've been listening to, 5 podcasts, 100 podcasts, whatever it is there something that you've learned from listening to these podcasts that you can put a finger on? Because a lot of times I've been told that people just get better by trying to do things that I heard on the podcast. and they just get better over time. And it's hard to put a finger on things. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate, again, you being here for this show 200. It's a show that's near and dear to my heart because I'm talking about the 20 things that I've learned. Something big is coming, by the way, for we the SEs. We're trying to do something special for everybody listening. If you're interested in that, make sure to sign up to the email newsletter so we can let you know about it as soon as possible, because there's gonna be multiple stages to that. Let's just put it that way. So that's it for me for today. Show notes on wetheSalesEngineers.com/show 200. And with that, this is me signing off.